be here right now. Being able to talk about advocacy to all of you, being able to just bounce this conversation around, it makes me super excited. I'm a local Staten Island activist. I'm a newly farmer. I'm starting up my farm now to help food insecurity on Staten Island, in New York, in the rest of the country, trying to bring awareness that you can grow your local foods right there in your own backyard, and just pushing on that. I advocate for the equality in all sexes and genders, equity in the races, just the betterment of society in a whole. I'm 22, 23 actually, just turned 23 a couple days ago. So that's another chapter in my life, another step forward into bringing more positive and positivity and love, into the community and into society as a whole. And I want to pass it on to my mentor, the guy who really brought me together, brought the young leaders together, gave us a base to talk, to develop our ideas. I want to pass it on to Ranti Ogunleye.
Thank you, good brother. Thank you, man. You mentor me as I mentor you, so it's a dual thing. And I want to say, Linda, I don't know if I should be going first. You went first, and I think there's a reason for that. You're amazing. Everyone on this call is really amazing, and the stuff that you're doing is amazing. Um, I don't even know how to give my pitch anymore. It feels like I'm still on the campaign. But again, my name is Ranti Ogunleye. Me and my family were raised in the Park Hill section of Staten Island. Many years ago, my parents moved from West Africa, Nigeria. We were all born and raised in Staten Island. I had Park Hill is the community that I grew up in, which is in Staten Island, beautiful community. And I tell people all the time, is a community that never gets the resources necessary to be people to be their best selves. I was lucky because I had an opportunity to attend Curtis High School, where I got the opportunity to travel to Vienna, Austria in 1996 for the United Nations World Youth Forum. So actually, Linda, that was actually my dream to work for the United Nations. And I went there to learn about sustainability, and I didn't even know how to spell the word. You know what I mean? So I'm a black kid from Park Hill Projects going to Vienna, Austria to talk about sustainability and how it's important for young people to have their voices heard. And that was something that was powerful for me. I also got the chance to travel to Croatia to work with Bosnian refugees that had fled after the Dayton Peace Accords were signed. They fled to Croatia, and that trip left an indelible mark in my heart. I came back to work with youth because I felt like what better way to give back than to work with our most precious resource, which is our young people. And I've done that for over 20 plus years. The former director of the New York Urban League on Staten Island, working as an adjunct professor at the College of Staten Island for the Black Male Initiative, working for the Jewish Community Center as the cornerstone director, or working as a community school director in the Bronx. You name it. I've done everything I possibly can on the ground to actually elevate youth voice and community voice. And when I chose to run was because, I don't believe that people who sit behind a desk should be our leaders. It should be people who are rooted in the community, and I needed to people to see and redefine what leadership looked like, and that's why I chose to run, and I hope that by me running, it would inspire the next leaders, the young leaders like Isaiah, to actually take the mantle because it's really up to us to redefine and reimagine what leadership really is about, and it's really up to us because we're the ones that are at the forefront of the pain where our communities are in. So I'm happy to be here with you. I'm happy to give some of my knowledge that I've gained over 20 years. I currently am the initiatives manager for the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice. I'm learning that job. I've been there for 7 months. I'm actually really excited because it allows me to actually reach across the city in a way that I never thought I would be able to. And so I'm excited to share these stories with you. And I'll pass it to who's our next speaker?
Just the three of us.
Just the
Just the
three of us.
three of
Okay,
us.
awesome.
Yep.
Just the three of us. Nice. So that's my story. So
Well, I'm glad you brought up the youth forum because that's actually this week or next week rather. So I did have, if anyone was interested in joining the youth forum, I will drop a link in the chat so that people can join that because I think there are multiple ways for people to join and do that. And Isaiah, I love that you brought up kind of the idea of food sustainability and
Yeah.
because through a human rights perspective, we actually, what I've been advocating for at the UN and in both of my policies for both social development and for women is the idea of food sovereignty. And that takes food security and it even moves it even further than that because food needs to not only be accessible and have the right to the ground and the rights of where we get our food, but it needs to be culturally responsive. And so I think that that is so appropriate. And it's an indigenous idea as well from an NGO in South America, La Via Campesina. And they really want to put the rights of the land back to the people because we know how to take, and that's part of sustainability, to make sure that we are protecting the land and climate justice. And there's an amazing nonprofit in Brooklyn. I'm trying to remember the name, and they were one of my advocates for one of my programs, and that was a major thing in Brooklyn of like how they've taken all of these really urban areas and top of rooftops and they're completely trying to push against climate change and do this food work and have community gardens and it's been amazing.
That's the future. That's the future right there. Really, it's one step at a time that we have to take it. But how I'm seeing it is with Nakama Farms, my farm, I want to try to get the community involved with that, having them use their backyards as one of our gardens and feeling like they contributed, even if it's just giving up a little bit of space. They helped to feed someone else, help to drive this idea forward. And I just think that's a good effort to do. Everyone needs food. That's how we live.
So I would love to know, Ranti, you kind of went in through like where you started in your advocacy, but I always think kind of what you said, that an activist needs to be on the ground and it needs to really know the community that they're kind of advocating for, but then also like you're pushed to be a politician because, an advocate kind of knows the community and they're ready to push things forward and be comfortable in that position to move that. But a politician has the pen and the power of the purse. And to make those difference. So I would love to know what made you take that turn and where you see your power now.
Yeah, that's a really good question. One, the power is always going to be in the hands of the people. I just want to make sure, yes, they might have the power of the purse for now, but if the people choose to elect this person or that person, or wants new representation, that person won't be there. So the power is always in the hands of the people, right? And I think we need to redefine and reshift and make sure that people truly understand that this is where it's at. Now, how I got my start was in Curtis High School. I joined the after school program when I was 16 years old. That's really what it was. And I had a brother who played, he ended up playing professional football. And I was like, what is going to be my mark? So I went to Curtis High School. They told me that there was this program called Global Kids and that I could miss school because they were going on trips. So I was like, yeah, I don't want to go to class. I'll go on a trip. And I actually went to, they had this trip called, the Global Kids does an annual conference with youth. And they had a woman from Rwanda who had left a genocide. She lost all her family to genocide. I'm 14 years old. I'm meeting this woman from Rwanda and we're doing a workshop on war and peace. And then she was the guest speaker. So we were like talking about war and peace in a fun way. And then here she comes. Hey, I lost my parents. I lost my child. I saw them massacred in front of me. And that was really like a wow moment for me because here I was, a person who had family, like my parents came from Nigeria. I was born here, but I had the privilege of being in a safe space. I had a privilege of going to school. And this woman lost all her family members. And that really dawned on me, like there were other people hurting and don't even have, even though as a Black man, there's things that I endured in this country in Staten Island, but there were other places that people were suffering. And that was really like important for me to see. And I think that was some of the beginning steps for me to say, you know what, it's up to me as a young person. I don't have to wait until I'm an adult to actually change things. So that's actually what made me even join Global Kids, because you know, I wasn't a 90 average student. I wasn't an A student, but Global Kids said your voice is still valued here. So that's a extremely powerful thing to tell a young person who maybe is insecure and doesn't feel valued, that you are valued and your voice is necessary in this space. That was the moment for me. And I've been trying to let young people and everybody, right, understand that their voice is the most powerful thing they have, and it's up to them to elevate that voice. And then it's up to us as community members to help them elevate that voice. And that's all I've been doing all my life now, is to help other people find their voice, help to elevate their voice, and let them know that no matter where you are, I'm just, you know, the titles that I told you today, remove that, right? I'm still Ranti Ogunleye that came from Park Hill Projects. That's who I am. And I'm a person who saw the beauty of my community, but also saw that people are always standing in and actually filling the gaps. It's always people. So once I realized that, then I realized it's up to us then to make that bridge to these communities that typically are not getting the resources necessary. So so that's why I transitioned, because I felt like, yes, there are things that you can do on the ground, but I also think that there are levels that you can pull in public office, and there's other ways to actually address the issues that we're dealing with. Also, lastly, we keep choosing people to be in power because this is what we know, right? Oh, they're close to the seat, so you know what? They know what's best. No, they don't. You know what's best for you. You know what's best for your community. You know why? You've been living in that community. You see the people in the community. You're a person in that community. So how could somebody behind the pen, behind the table, tell you what's better for your community? So it's up to us to elevate those voices, and that's why I transitioned, because I felt like my candidacy would be more of, hey, if Ranti could do that, Ranti, you know, Ranti, I chill with Ranti all the time. If he could do it, then you should be inspired to be able to do it too. So that's why I chose to run, and that's what I was hoping that people would see through my campaign.
Well, I love that. And as a warrior myself, so I do believe Maroon as well. So I do know the passion in that school. And it's definitely similar. Kind of when I started, and thank you for sharing all that. When I started at the UN, kind of my first few weeks, I mean, it's a really big entity. There's 6 different organs of the UN. You're like, where do I even fit? Where do I even start? What am I doing here? And how does it work? And we can see, like, you know, what I've learned, kind of my first week kind of at the UN. I was going to these meetings, and it was kind of similar, where there was a woman that came and she was talking about Indigenous rights and what happened in Canada, and how her family was murdered and there was no plots, and they were just how the Catholic Church just murdered people, and then they were finding it, and it was, you know, she was telling her story. And now, as we do the human rights for Ukraine, we're hearing these, you know, really horrible stories. And even right now, there's a genocide in Ethiopia, and we don't even hear these things. And there's atrocities that are happening around the world that we don't hear, and that kind of really shifts who you are. I myself am a right fighter. I like doing the right thing. Probably always gets me into trouble sometimes, but I think that good trouble can be good. So I think when I started going to the UN meetings and really finding my voice and using my voice and my good trouble for good purposes, it definitely changed kind of what I wanted to do. I love human rights work and moving and shifting, not only, you know, social work, which I just love social work as a profession.
Right.
And I represent that, and I get to push those ideals forward. And we do have these code of ethics that makes it like responsible, but it's our responsibility to always make sure that just because it's the way it's done, it still needs to be transformed. I have an amazing book, one of my textbooks, that talks about how kind of social workers at times were the people that were just perpetuating what the government wanted. You know, during World War II, they were the people that were saying, you know, who was, you know, a disabled person or who was a Jew, and they were sending them to the concentration camps and all these different things. Right now, you know, they're filling quotas by getting people on SNAP and TANF. They're not changing the systems and finding the root problems. And that's exactly what I wanted to do, to kind of transform that. And like those ideals come from like food security to food sovereignty. And I think that when you think of advocacy, my greatest thing is it's taking everyone's passion and turning it into their purpose. And
Right.
everyone has a passion for something, whether it's trans rights or animal rights or poverty or women's rights. I mean, there's a million things we can be passionate for, and I think it's just making sure people have to understand they have that power to turn their passion into their purpose and make a real life of changing the world.
I think it's important, and I want to hear from Isaiah, because as a young person who I saw, like, and Isaiah inspired me, because not too many young people, like, I went through global kids training, right? They trained me. But what Isaiah was able to do, he was a student of the moment. He saw what was happening, and he said there was a void. There was not enough young people, like, leading their voices, and he stepped in that gap. And I think it's important as a young person to understand that change won't happen because the adults are going to do it, right? We've been trying to address these issues for years, and we haven't. Change is going to happen when the young people really understand that it's really them. It's on them. It's on them now. And I always tell a young person, it's not about when you become an adult. It's about addressing the issues now. Young people can actually create policy right now. And I'm actually working with a bunch of young leaders throughout the city. It's called the Youth Leadership Council, where we're actually creating policy right now. We're actually creating policy. We're even talking about lowering the voting age to 16. Like, this is actually happening right now in New York City. And we've been talking about this for years. But I do believe with the youth that I'm working with, it's actually going to be actualized. So for me, it's always about empowering our young people and saying, don't wait until now. And there's not going to be a superhero that comes down and saves the day, right? Movements don't happen. You're the superhero, right? It's you who are going to organize. It's you who's going to actually address these issues. So it's up to us to make sure that we elevate those voices at every step of the way, because they're going to be the problem solvers of our issues. And I would love brother Isaiah to talk about that, because I think you inspired a lot of people. Because I know you called me the mentor, but to be honest, bro, you was already marching when I met you. I was marching too, but you was leading the march, right? Let's keep it real. You was leading the march. I just helped to make it sustainable. You were leading the march already, brother. So I think it's important to talk about how young people can fill gaps.
For sure. For sure. And you're right. It was kind of activism in the moment. I came down there. It was about a couple days after George Floyd was murdered, and Staten Island went to organize that march. It wasn't the young leaders putting it together. It was the whole of the island going there. I went there only to document what's happened. And I just started hearing everyone saying how the walk from where Eric Gardner was choked out to the precinct was so short. It wasn't really, no one's voice was being heard. Everyone wanted to say something, but it was a few older gentlemen, saying what they had to say. And a couple more people wanted to keep going. They wanted to keep marching. And I was just there filming them. And then we started to walk. We took over Bay Street and we walked, and we kept getting our voice louder and louder. And then one thing, just out of the blue, my phone went down into my pocket, and I'm screaming at the top of my voice. I'm telling everyone to come outside of their house, come out of their businesses, walk with us, march with us. And we were going to take that onto the bridge. We were going to walk right over the Verrazano Bridge, arms in arm. We had so much people with us. Our energies were high. And then we got met with, I believe, like a station of police. Behind them, I was told it was National Guard or the state police, ready for us. They were all waiting. They thought that our marches were going to be so violent, destructive. We were gonna go out and break and loot everything, but consciously, all together, we didn't even need to speak about it. We knew our assignment to walk hand in hand with each other, to unite, to make our voice as loud as possible. So we don't need to result ending in violence. So taking that experience that I had that day, and Ranti giving me that space to communicate with all the other young leaders and bounce our ideas off of each other. I remember our march to the 121. And before that, there was so many people on Facebook telling us that if we come down there, they're gonna kill us in the street. They had guns ready. They were ready to kill us. We thought about not doing that march. Oh, well, that's dangerous going down there. But we decided to anyway, because we knew that it was bigger than their comments. It was bigger than a online Facebook post. This is change that we're talking about. This is our lives that we're talking about. And we knew that our community was there with us. When we came down to Home Depot and we were just about to go, everyone was there. People that I didn't see in years, friends from middle school came down telling me how exciting this is. This is something that they wanted to do. They wish we always did. And pushing on, going forward, we ended that march so full of energy, so ready to keep going and keep going. That march led to our Sandy Grounds March. And that one changed me so much. It brought me the idea to bring my farm, actually, because learning about the history of Sandy Grounds, how we thrived on farming, we thrived on oyster cultivation. That's something that was here, right? It's written down. It's a legacy here for that. So marching from Sandy Grounds all the way down to the Lighthouse Museum, that was about 13 miles. I caught 3 or 4 cramps in my leg. And every time I caught that cramp, I had to get right back up and keep on going, right? Because it was not an ego thing. It was not, I didn't want to, I'm macho, look at me, I can keep walking. That was not any type of thought in my head. The thought was, my ancestors walked down these paths, right? We try to walk the exact same route or close to the exact same route as the Underground Railroad. And not many people know the Underground Railroad ran through Staten Island. This was a key stop here on Staten Island. And learning about that, and speaking that while we were marching, I saw people's minds light up and change and feel like they were robbed of information that was here, just a train ride away, So just to wrap this thought up, we ended off with drums, and we ended off in a celebration, right? And every march that we had, I really remember that it was never, oh, this is sad that we're telling this information, that we have to advocate about these issues. This is so sad and depressing. It was never like that. It was, look at how much people came out with us. Look at our community. Look at the people who look like us, people who don't even look like us, coming together and, vindicating. Is that, I don't even know if that's the word I'm looking for, but showing us that what we're marching about, what we're talking about really means something. It really can affect the world around us. So every march that we put on, every event that we put on, it was never about how much people we got there. It was mainly a celebration that we're bringing these topics, we're bringing these issues to light, we're giving these issues a voice. And that's what I think advocacy is bringing that light and bringing that voice to these issues and our ideas to better further our future. Starting with you, right? You don't have to be the person in the front line, but you can use your talents otherwise to open up those pathways so that the people you have faith in, you put your faith in, they can walk down, no problem. You're right there hand in hand, giving that support with them. So that's how I feel us young people could really get involved, because we have that energy and we have that passion to keep on going. To when your partner is feeling a little sluggish, you can remind them, this is why we fight. This is why we keep talking. This is why we bring these new ideas and bring these programs to life, because here is the vision. Here is the goal. You can show them a future that's tangible, right? So please, get active, get out there, take action. Even if it's just thinking of an idea that you can fall in love with. You have to find that passion.
And two things I want to add, and then Linda, I would definitely would, what we can talk about another question. One, Isaiah is totally truthful about what he said. He caught multiple spasms. I saw him. But what I also want to show you is that how much love was around him, right? They were trying to help him, and everybody helped each other. The other thing I want to show you is that he was fearless. Even though he was afraid at times, he showed fearlessness, right? But he knew that he had the support. There was a time, there was a moment, it was really momentous at the 120 precinct where he asked the precinct captain to come downstairs, to come down. And when the precinct captain came down, they shook hands. And that was the start of like a real connection, right? But it was Isaiah who had to be fearless to do that. It was Isaiah who had to be fearless to get up in front and not knowing if he would have the support. But for all the young people who are on here, there's many people who probably think the same way you think, who want to fight injustice, but they are afraid. You cannot let your fear cripple you to not do anything. You are too important and we need you, right? So you have to be fearless.
That was a great segue to kind of how I wanted to lead the conversation next, and that is exactly it. I think that right now we have a room full of 31 advocates and leaders, and my next question is kind of exactly how you said that, Ranti, is how can these 31 leaders in this room become leaders on this island? What can they do? Who can they connect with? How can someone become an advocate? Because like I said, I think that is all finding their passion, and that there's so many things to be passionate for, especially on Staten Island. I kind of like all of you, I was part of the PCCLF last year, and meeting all these wonderful community leaders and how they can change things. I think that Staten Islanders and the young people on this island can make a difference. Like part of the UN, we see that there's 1.2 billion young people in the world, and in order to receive the 2030 agenda, that's going to increase by almost 9%. So we'll have almost 1.5 billion young people in the world. So it is the young people that can make a difference, and I think that it's important that they start that. So kind of to go back to that question is, how can these young activists become an advocate? Where can they start? Who can they connect with? Where can they go?
I think the first thing starts with themselves. I think you hit it on the head. What do you like to do? What do you want to do to pour into people, right? We're here to pour into people. That's definitely one of our responsibilities. You're here to pour into people, but you can only pour into people after you know what you want to do. So I think sometime is you have to know what you like to do. And what there's something that says don't yuck my yum, right? When you're talking about food, but I think that goes with everything. Had I been like years ago, if I said, yo, Global Kids is corny, man, because a lot of my friends, I'm gonna keep it real. A lot of my friends thought Global Kids was corny. Like, yo, Ranti, you going to Global Kids? Oh my God. But I said, yeah, I'm gonna go to Global Kids. Yeah, I'm gonna go. And I went after school, and little did I know it was it was gonna be life changing. Right? Little did I know I would go to Croatia 3 times, Germany, Austria, all these places by joining an after school program. So one, you got to show up. You got to first show up. Because if you're not showing up, you're not going to even know what opportunities lie there for you. So one, I showed up. And once I showed up, there was opportunities for me. 2, I found what my passion was and I stuck with it. I didn't care, like I said, I had a brother who played in the NFL. My brother made millions of dollars. That was his life. But I had to stick with what brought me happiness. And what started to bring me happiness was serving people. And even my mom would say, Ranti, you might want to choose another profession because you might not get paid enough, right? And I didn't know, I wasn't worried about that. I was more concerned about what I love to do and to actually pour into it. I poured into it so much. I became the Educator of the Year in 2015. So it made, because I love to serve and because I love working with youth, you will start to like find avenues to actually pour into other things specifically around young people. So I think one is to show up. Young people have to show up and show out all the time. We have to know that you're there, right? You have to let them know you're there. It don't matter that you're young. right? These things, think about what Malcolm X, Martin Luther King was able to do at 39. So do you imagine what they had to be doing in their teen years? They had to be there. They had to show up. It doesn't just happen overnight, right? I can talk to you about my 20-year career, but that also meant that I was doing something when I was a teenager. So you have to give yourself these eye-opening experiences, right? You have to challenge yourself. So even if you think something is corny or whack because your friends don't go to, that might not be for you, and you might be shortchanging yourself by not pouring into yourself and actually going to something. So show up and show out, right? Be present, pour into yourself, and actually find what you love to do. That's where you begin to like work from. What do you really love to do? And from there, you'll find avenues to pour in to people with the things you love to do, and then you'll see how doors open. So and I can add some other pieces, but I want to hear from everybody else as well, Linda, as you too.
Yeah. So Ranti, you're right, and one of the key factors, it is being present. It is being there and ready for action. But for us younger people, we have social media at our fingertips. We can use that, utilize that, right? Being socially present, right there, right on Facebook. You're hosting conversations like this, right? It's easy to put a Zoom conversation together, and we can get that done. But one thing I really like to stress is that you don't have to be front and present. You don't have to be the center of all attention, right? You can use your talents, right? To say you're trying to be a story writer. I know a couple of people who helped us out, Shanish and Adam, with Golden Cut Productions. They're 24. They have a couple of movies they already filmed, put out, but they still documented our Sandy Grounds march, right? They offered up that service free of charge because they were friends with Kevin. They knew what Kevin was going to do. They knew what he was about and why we were doing that march. So they offered that help, right? You can be that person to offer your services there, right? You know that you're passionate about that same topic, that same issue. So you want to help out a little bit. And if you think in the long run, right? Say you're writing a screenplay. You write this about the stories that affected your lives, the trials that you had to go through, or create something that really brings a voice to what you're advocating about. And then get that out there on the big screen, get that out there for people to really reach, right? And understand. So it all starts with, finding that passion, really keying in onto what you love to do, what you're good at doing, and then using that avenue to push what you're advocating about, what you're really and truly passionate about. You're using those in tangent, all as one, to get those ideas really across.
I mean, I'm just going to reiterate everything you both said. I had an amazing mentor that always said it's about your talent, your treasures, your time, and what was the last one? It's another T: talent, treasures, time, and ties. So it's who you know and where you go and showing up and all of that. And I think that's a part of it. Last year, both locally, I did the Public Conversations for Change Leadership Fellowship last year, and we got connected to so many local leaders that are in nonprofits, and you get to see all of the amazing work that they're doing. And there's so many nonprofits on Staten Island. I think when I had the data last year, I wanted to say there was almost 350 or 400 nonprofits on Staten Island, and they all range in sizes. So there's so many areas that if you're passionate about something, you can get involved, you can volunteer, you can work there. You can do these conversations, like you said, the Zoom link, like doing the PCCLF, doing emerging leaders. You all showed up today. And that is an amazing thing that I think you need to recognize, that you showed up today. Finding a mentor. I mean, I can only imagine, Isaiah, how it was having Ranti as your mentor. That sounds, both of you are making me more passionate about this borough. And I love being here, and I want to change this borough with you. So I will follow you both anywhere. Let me know where to show up. And I think it's part of that. It's showing up and finding what you're passionate about and using your treasures, your talent, your time to kind of change what you think is wrong. I mean, I remember being on social media and there's a guy that loves animals. And I think whenever there's a lost animal or an abused animal, he shows up and everyone's like, we have to get this person here. And I hope that person makes a nonprofit and more people join them and they, change the way animals are treated. There's so many different areas that you can do. You can join the PCCLF, and there's another season next year. And we have all these, how might we? And we use that question to kind of create all these different areas that you can change. And we had amazing projects last year. And I know that there are a lot of continuing right now, like where do you belong on Staten Island? Doing food equity in West Brighton. That was one of the projects. Like there's all these amazing, and so it's like finding who you can connect with and how you can grow these projects. And we talked about different things. I worked for the Staten Island Not-for-Profit Association, and we had a coalition for disaster preparedness, and that came from Hurricane Sandy, and someone pretty much saying that there was no resources here, and they showed up and they changed it, and they have these beautiful solutions, which is what we called them at PCCLF. And I think that if people just show up, they can make these beautiful solutions and they can make changes. And I mean, I hear all these amazing stories, and I want everyone here, all 30 leaders, over 31 of you who left us, everyone here to just show up and make another solution and fix something and make this world. And again, I think it's also conversations, and that's part of it as well, because we need to speak to each other to actually get through. And that's a part of a big thing on this island is I think that we like to call it, I mean, I always hear it's the Mason-Dixon line. And I think that we need to change that. We need to actually have conversations.
It's funny that you say that, because that was one of the big things the young leaders were all about. They were like, look, we want to break this up, this stigma that Staten Island doesn't come together. Like black, white, it doesn't matter who you are. Our issues, just like when I was in Bosnia, there were white Muslims, right? Actually, when I took my students to Bosnia in 2014 again, we were there and they uncovered a mass grave, and we got to mourn with the town. And actually, while we were over there, Eric Gardner got killed in Staten Island. So a lot of our young people were like, man, I don't even want to come back home because we're getting treated better in a white Muslim country than we are in our own country. So it was really like powerful dynamics. So when we came back, we started talking about what are some ways we can kind of like show up, right? Little did we know that eventually another situation would happen and the young leaders will form, right? But again, there's times and space where activism is going to be called, and there's going to be an opportunity to kind of show up and show out. And I think you just have to kind of be ready for those moments, right? But I want to say this, because this is really important. I always talk about two myths that people have when we think about advocacy and when we think about organization, right? I think about the civil rights movement. I think about the bus boycott, right? I think about that, right? There's these two myths that always end up like affecting young people, and I want to dispel these myths. One is the spontaneous combustion myth, right? We all know that spontaneous combustion means it's something just explodes, right, without any warning. So the spontaneous combustion myth is movements happen out of nowhere. Out of nowhere, oh my God, the bus boycott happened and now everybody gets to get on the bus, right? No, we know that Rosa Parks was a part of SNCC, which was a youth organizing unit, a bunch of young people, pretty much youth, that came together that said, hey, we're going to work together to do this bus boycott. Rosa Parks was not the one person that did that bus boycott. But because we keep hearing this narrative, it's like she didn't want to get off the bus because her bunions were hurting. I even saw that in one of the movies, right? Her bunions were hurting, she didn't want to get up. And what that does is it doesn't lend the credibility that, you know what, people were actually meeting in rooms to discuss how do we plan this bus boycott. It doesn't talk about the thousands of teens and college students that actually met to make this happen. So you just hear Rosa Parks, spontaneous combustion, and now everybody gets to be on the bus. That's a lie. It was organizing. It was everybody coming together. It was talking about how do we make this work. There was a consistency with the work. The same thing, superhero myth. I talked about that earlier. There's no one coming down to save you. You think about superhero, Wonder Woman, right? She's coming out there. She got the whip. She's gonna make things happen. right? Even though I know my mom's are Wonder Woman, I know the women on here are Wonder Woman, but we also know that when we actually come together, that's where the power lies. So we need to destroy these myths that movements happen by ourselves. Movement happens when we're organized, when we're talking about the issues, and when we're showing up. And lastly, we have the blueprint with our brother Chris Smalls. Anybody who knows Chris Smalls, you need to know him now. This guy is a man who looks just like anyone on the screen, right? And most people will probably judge him. Actually, what happens is Chris Morse was the gentleman with his group that helped to organize Amazon labor union. They went against one of the most powerful people in the world, right? Powerful. This guy got arrested. I mean, everything. And you know what they said? You know what they did? They said they were going to use marketing to use his face as the marketing, like, oh yeah, you want to start a union? We're going to use your face. You know why? Because they said, you know, he's black and he looks like a hood dude. This is what they were thinking. And it's going to turn people off to join the union. And little did they know, this brother was his authentic self, and he actually worked with his team. And you know what? They unionized in Staten Island, the fifth forgotten borough that everybody says nothing happens positive here. That shows you can be your authentic self, you can work together, but it's going to take time, right? And that's what I want to tell my young people on here. It doesn't happen overnight. Even though you saw the successes of the young leaders, if you ask Isaiah, we were meeting 3 to 4 times every single day. So yes, sometimes that work is tedious, but if we show up and show out and we are consistent, I promise you, the issues that you want to address, we will start to make inroads in those issues. But it's going to take consistency. It's going to take showing up, and sometimes it's going to take, you know what? I can't go chill out with my friends today because I have some important work. Yes, it's going to take that. But if you do that, I promise you, we will start to see the change that we want to see in Staten Island, which we're already seeing. Look how many young people are showing up here today, right? So it's really up to us to really change the narrative by looking at ourselves as our authentic selves and then showing up and showing out. So that's what I want to leave you guys with today.
I just want to add on real quick that advocacy is a trial, right? It's a spiritual thing, really. You're giving your whole self to this passion project, this passion idea that you have, right? It tests who you are as a person, and it tests the limits of where you can go. If you can push past that, if you can really engage and keep moving forward, this is what advocacy is. It's trial after trial after trial, but you always have to constantly remember why you're doing this and keep moving forward.
And I agree. I think it's just you're also always changing yourself, and you're growing, and you're taking that knowledge into every single place, every single movement, every single room that you're in, because you've changed. And I think that's important, because it may be a little step, but it could be a bigger step in a bigger picture. So I agree. Always kind of celebrate your wins. But I know that we don't have much time. We only have about 30 minutes left. So I do want to know if anyone has any questions for any of our speakers. You can raise your hand, you can put them in the chat, we'll read them out.
And also, just so you know, I did put 2 things in the chat, and I can talk about that in a second, but I put 2 grants in the chat. One of my responsibilities for the Office of Neighborhood Safety, Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice, is I review grants and I actually give grants now, which actually to me is so rewarding, because many times I saw community members use their own money to actually try to address issues and struggle and struggle and struggle. So to be able to be a part of now empowering community members that I know are really serious and focused about supporting community members, I'm excited. So I put those 2 grants in there. One is $1,000 to $10,000 grant. It's called Safe in the City. I want all young people on this line to apply. You don't have to be a nonprofit. You don't have to even be an agency. And I don't want you to say, oh, I've never applied for a grant before. We understand that. That's why we actually made this smaller grant. We know that this is most likely going to be people's first times applying for a grant. But you know what? I've never seen so many young people apply for grants. I want that to change. Why do you have to wait until you're 30, 40 to apply for a grant? Apply for this grant now. Apply for this grant now. Empower yourself, empower your community. If you do have a great idea and you want to pour into your community, this is how you do it. So, and if you need help, I'm going to also put my cell phone, my work cell phone in the chat. I've been extremely busy, but if you text me, Yvette knows I'll get back to you at some point, but I'll get back to you. But definitely for the Safe in the City grant, if it's work related, I'll definitely respond. And I want to see young people apply for these grants because I think, again, young people have the answers to address issues. I really do. I really believe young people are the ones that can do it.
I agree. And
No
I also
problem.
think, oh, I'm sorry. Just really quickly, the best thing that was ever said to me is that a grant is basically a paper, just proving what you're doing and why you're doing it. And I think as a student, we all pretty much know how to write a paper, and that's what it is. And you can actually make a difference. But go ahead, Isaiah. I didn't want to cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I just said we need new solutions to these old problems. Simple as that. Yeah.
All right, you didn't have to come back with like real good like power. That was like so if there is any more questions, come on, guys. This is a great conversation. Oh, there's 32 people here who came back. Oh, someone raised their hand. Okay, Samantha. You can ask your question.
Okay, actually I have a couple of questions if that's okay.
Go ahead.
So obviously I go to CSI. I'm in this program. Excuse me. I don't know how to speak. I am a part of this program called Public Interest Technology. It's new to CUNY schools. It's brand new to CSI. We're only in our second year. I wanted to know if anybody knew Professor Katie Kaminsky, because she does things like you guys do. And I'm like, okay, we got connections here. She's a really cool person. She's, in charge of my program. We run out of St. George particularly. And we're running an event at Snug Harbor called the Unconvening in this coming October. It's like at the end of October, I think the 24th. I'm working on that event. It's an interesting thing. You guys were talking about like events and rallies. I'm like, yeah, we're literally kind of doing that. This is more of a conference style thing. It's people outside of Staten Island coming here because we're also trying to remove that. Yeah, Staten Island's no good. Which is just like an interesting thing that I think that people are trying to do. We're trying to change the image because we get disrespected a lot. And I'm like, yeah, I know we have issues, but we are just as good, if not, we can be better than every other borough. So I'm like, does anybody know who she is? She's just a cool person. If anybody also knows about the PIT program, it's cool.
So I do. That is a friend's mother, I believe, or stepmother. So I definitely know who they are, and they are also an amazing professor at CSI. And I think that's also what we were all kind of saying. It's about who you know and connecting people together. And so, Samantha, you're here. You can connect with Ranti or Isaiah and kind of bring people together and either promote the work you're doing or get involved with the work that Isaiah or Ranti's involved with and continue to make more people, make these coalitions. I don't know if there was another question in that or if there was another answer or.
I don't know who that professor is. Also, I didn't know about this program. I'll put my email in the chat if you want to send over any information about it. I'll definitely look over it, see, how to get involved from there.
Yeah, I'll definitely send you some information. I don't know if there were two questions in that or not. I'm a little all over the place, but I just it's almost the same thing. We're interested in community. We want to build up the community. We want to know what these problems. We already know what these problems are. We're just trying to the sophomore group is working with a nonprofit community fridge. We're working with Graniteville Wetlands. Those are two things we're doing. One of our other students is working with the Pride Center. I'm personally working on the Unconvening event. That's my thing. But it's we got a network because we've support systems are important. Getting into the high schools again are important. Like I feel like students are important, and like, yeah, I'm a student. I'm only 19, so it's like we have more to do. There's more work to be done, but like I feel like students want to do things, and then there's that ageism thing that kind of blocks us, and we get put down a lot and say that like, you don't know anything, you're too young to know anything, you're not worth anything because you're young. And there are these roadblocks and people that don't want to work with us just because you're young. You get denied from things just because you're young. So it's like hearing older people say that youth is important and actually meaning it and holding up to it is really cool and really important. So it's like,
Who you calling
I don't
old?
know.
Who you calling old, Samantha? I ain't old, Samantha.
You're not. I don't. I older. You're not old. There's a difference.
Nah, I'm messing with,
Oh, I'm sorry.
nah, I'm messing with you, Samantha. Nah, I totally get it. And that's why, Samantha, when my mentor said, Ranti, like seriously, I wasn't a valedictorian, right? And she was like, nah, your voice is valued here. That stuck with me. It stuck with me. Like, cause I'm like, are you sure? And she's like, no, it really is. And it was such a powerful statement. It resonates even to today. And that's why I try to tell, young people, because I feel like you will get here at this point, and you'll be wishing you understood your power back then, right? And that's why you're probably even more powerful than you ever know. But you just gotta, believe in yourself. And sometimes it takes the little steps, right, before so you want to see some smaller victories. So even showing up and showing out could be like lending your service to a food kitchen. But some of the things that you talked about that you're doing with the Pride Center, the Graniteville wetlands, I was in the march too. I was marching with them, and even seeing that they have knocked down the trees is discouraging. But to hear that you're still working on it, that's what this is about, right? That's resiliency. That's what we're talking about. Like, you guys are going to be the next leaders. Like, even actually, just so I'm gonna keep it real with you, this the election that just came, the 23rd, for the Senate seat, I was trying to get one of the young leaders to run. That's how serious this is about. This is like, why should you wait to run? Why? Like, you have great ideas now. And I think we really need to reimagine that you can be a leader. You are a leader, not you can. You are a leader once you step up, right? It's a choice, and we need to like work together so that we can feed off each other's powers and support each other. But through understand that you are a leader now, I think then you have a responsibility. Then once you understand that you are a leader, you have a responsibility to uplift other voices. So that's why it's important.
Yeah,
And Sam,
Samantha, go ahead, Isaiah.
all right, blessed. One thing I want to say is I understand your frustration. Like, I understand what that means to have older authority tell you that your opinion is invalid just because they've lived longer than you, right? They claim that they understand the world around you because they have lived longer. To an extent, that sure, that may be true, but you still have that voice. And one thing I want you to remember is that you have to keep in mind how powerful your voice could be, not how powerful it is now. You work on elevating your voice, projecting it further and further and further, so that people on the other side of the world can hear you when you're advocating. They can hear you when you're preaching. So always remember that your voice can be as loud as limitlessly possible. You just have to work there, work up. Don't let no one push you down and keep you down.
Yeah, you aren't only anything, Samantha, and I hope that you know that, and that we've at least empowered you a little bit to get your voice and to do something. Lena, I did see your hand up, though. I know that you put it down, but I hope that you're going to ask the question.
Yes, I don't have a question. I'm sorry I can't put my camera on because I'm on my way to campus, but I just wanted to just give Ranti a big thank you. I purposely thought of him when me and Yvette were planning this because of how like inspiring, I know just working under him, like how much I loved and was inspired by him. I hope everyone else was, because even if I didn't know him before this, I feel like just listening to him makes you want to like make signs and leave your house right now and go outside. But I just wanted to just give him such a big thank you and a virtual hug. I hope everyone else is as inspired from listening to him, and all of you, all three of you.
And
And I see, yeah.
You know I love you, sister. I'm equally inspired by you. It's not bull, right? And I think the role that you're showing, right? Just even you helping the event organize it. This is what I'm talking about.
Right.
Lena worked with me. She was my colleague. Yes, I was a boss, but she worked with me. I would lean on Lane, like, yo, Lane, I need this and help me with this. And we supported each other. And it's so it's powerful to see you in this role. Like you're a G, sister. You're a G. And I'm gonna keep it real. Like you're a real G, and you show up and you show up everywhere you go. You show up and you show out. And this is just an extension of what I'm talking about, right? Like you got inspired, so now you're trying to inspire other young people, and that's what we must do. That's how we start changing the narrative, man. Like it's really important. And I would like everything that I'm talking about still stems from my youth. Like everything that I'm inspired about, everything that has the passion in my stomach and my belly comes from that trip to Bosnia, comes from seeing those refugees in those camps, comes from talking to that woman in Rwanda. All those things that happened was so vital, but it was not to hide it. It was to use that to empower other people. So Lena, you are doing the work. Continue to do what you're doing, sister. And I'm going to support you until the sun bursts. So I got you, sis.
I appreciate you so much. Thank you for all of that. Thank you.
No doubt, sis. Got you.
Get to campus safely, please, and thank you.
Yes, get to campus.
Are there any other questions, especially for driving? Because I wasn't sure if you were driving or not. Are there any other questions? Come on,
I would
guys.
want to just shut out. If anybody wants to join the Young Leaders of Staten Island is recruiting other young people. We are very serious. We're gearing up for some serious stuff. What Brother Isaiah talked to you about, the 1st of August march, was actually something that happened in the 1800s. Do you know that it's believed that Harriet Tubman possibly walked on Staten Island during the Underground Railroad? Most people won't even know that. We found that out after doing research, right? So our march wasn't just about marching. It was about our history shouldn't be a mystery, right? And that was some of the quotes that we would say, because how could we have such a history, a vast history on Staten Island, right? And nobody know about it. So it's important to change that narrative. And Isaiah, you said you walked 13 miles. It was actually 16 miles you walked. You marched. And they marched the actual road that the Underground Railroad was paved would be, right? So that was empowering, but that was also to give credibility to let people understand how powerful BIPOC communities are. Like people of color been here, right? And it was young people that was changing that narrative, right? The people that lived on Staten Island knew about this, but they haven't been talking about it. It was young people that had to bring this issue to the top. So that if young people don't do it, I really believe it's not going to get done. That's really my true belief. If young people don't do it, it's not going to get done. Because if it was going to get done, it would have been done already. So it's really up to you guys. It really is.
Yeah.
And I think what's also go ahead, Isaiah.
Please, no, go ahead.
I think what's most interesting when you look at the data and you look at Staten Island, we are the only borough to increase in population, and we are the most diverse borough. Yeah. And so now it's time for our leadership to actually reflect the community members. And so I think it is in just empowering people to make that initiative. Go ahead, Isaiah, and then we have a question from Samantha. So
yeah, Staten Island is like a reflection of the whole U.S. You have these different regions all over Staten Island. It's pretty like clear. But you know, anyone here on this call, anyone who's probably going to be watching this after, you can join the Young Leaders Facebook page. We're, like Ranti said, we're about to revamp and get right back into everything. I'm gonna be posting you know, just conversation questions that we can talk about in the comments, just to keep that interaction going, keeping that energy fired up. So, you know, after this call, later down the line, whenever, join, get active, talk about things that you might be passionate about also. Maybe we can, try to get programs going, and just bring more light to these situations.
And I did just drop it in the chat for you, so I am ahead of the game here. I am nothing if not ahead and efficient. So go ahead, everyone. You can click the link in the chat and go and join right now. Samantha, go ahead. I'd love to hear your question or your comment.
Yeah, it's more of a comment. It's just there's a lot of information about Staten Island that people do not know about. There's still more that I barely know. I barely know anything. And I've lived here my entire life. North Shore, a good 15 years, North Shore, flat out. And then I was too young to remember the South Shore. I don't know anything about that. But you go from area to area on this island alone, and it is incredible to see that some places do not look like you would think they're Staten Island. In my lifetime, they started the whole thing with the dump and changing that into a park. And there's so much information about that dump. There's and the fact that we are 3 bridges connected to Jersey, 1 bridge connected to Brooklyn. There's so many interesting little things about the island and each area of the island and when things were developed that I feel like we need to learn more about. Yeah. Like the state school and where CSI is now, where CSI used to be. There's so much information rich in St. George alone that is absolutely incredible to learn about. And I feel like there's not a lot of information out there for people to really easily read about. I feel like we don't focus about all of the history on the island and how many Snug Harbor in and of itself is a very interesting place. There's different things about how Port Richmond used to look. If you've ever been on the South Shore, most of the homes on the South Shore were built in the 50s and 60s. And you can see the gentrification and the overdevelopment of the North Shore compared to the South Shore. All of the wetlands, all of these spots. So I feel like it's very interesting, and I feel like we don't talk about it enough. All of the different high schools, everything is just so interesting and different. No matter where you go up Richmond Road, and it looks like you're in Jersey. You go, if you're in St. George, it looks completely different. I don't know. I just feel like everything's just so weird and interesting about the island alone. So
yeah, no, my comment. Sorry, go ahead. Oh, I think you muted.
Oh no, I did. I'm sorry. My dad came in from outside, so I was like, oh, let me just mute.
Yeah. But you're 100% right. When I was 15, I found out Staten Island was bigger than the North Shore. That's because I went to high school and started playing football for McKean Tech. So I went over to New York, saw that Staten Island was much bigger. So that's the ignorance that I had as a child growing up, not really exploring anything further than my neighborhood and not being exposed to that. I didn't have games to go to at the Little League field down in the South Shore. I wasn't really exposed to anything else. So I do understand what you mean by, the difference there.
Samantha, I can just say, I think I'm seeing your passion kind of come together, and maybe what you'd like to do is getting this information. And also, I don't know if you're part of PCCLF, but we do have a resource guide that has a lot of old information about the redlining and how the maps used to look and how they currently look. I mean, it was a plethora of information that if this is something that you're interested in, I would advise you to kind of look into that. I do want to mention, because I'm getting text messages there's a survey in the chat, please click it, do the survey. We do want to do emerging leaders again. I hope you've been enjoying it and that you can continue. And now I want to get back to Lena. Lena, is that your the correct way?
Yes, it's funny that Sam was saying that, because I remember my first history class that I took at BMCC, and he taught us about how like Central Park isn't Central Park, it's Seneca Village. And it was something that, and I was just like, I was a freshman, and it's when you realize like you've been taught such false things your entire early education and you don't really know these things. So it just brought that up for me too, that people don't know that even in the cities, Central Park is not just a nice, pretty, you know, monument in the city. It was where people lived and resided, and it was, you know, something painful for a lot of people, and it's not, you know, known.
My girlfriend found that out last month when I told her that. She's 23, so that was a big shock.
Yeah.
To her too.
I think I was like 19, and I sat there, and I feel like that's when I really was like, okay, this is, now I'm just so outspoken. Like, you know, I have a father that's a little ignorant, and I love schooling him, and you know, he's gotten a better humble, but it's just, it's like in me to make sure people that they know what, you know, it really is where you're living.
Yeah, can't just gloss over it and put it to the side.
I want to say something, because this is big for a lot of times the young people. Look, my parents are from West Africa, Nigeria, and I love them, but I challenge them. They say some ignorant stuff, but both of my parents have master's degrees.
You have to.
But when
you
I
have
hear
to.
them talk about, oh, this group and that group, listen, you have to challenge it. You have to. And there's space, you can do it respectfully, right? But it's up to you guys too to even change what happens in your home. It happens, right? Because you're, again, just like your best place to actually address the issues that are concerning the community, your best place to address the issues in your home. When you hear your parents say, oh, that group or that color, no, you've worked with that group, you've worked with that color, you've worked with that person, you work with many different people, and you could say, no, this is not reality, right? And I'm looking for this generation to be that generation to redefine what real community looks like, right? Because we still live in our pockets and our silos, and what we were able to do with the young leaders, we were able to come together, right? It didn't matter what your sexual orientation was. It didn't matter what you're like. We felt like there was an issue. And I think young people have a powerful thing to play, but it also starts at home. Those difficult conversations about race, those different conversations about sexual orientation, right? And the others, right? What are we doing when we're home, right? So how are we advocating for ourselves? How are we showing up for ourselves, right? On these serious topics, right? So I just wanted to, because when Lena said that, I just think about the fights that I have to go through with my own family, because I love them. And, you know, I don't want to, you know, hey, you know, who wants to talk bad about your family? No, but it's about being critical, right? And holding them to a standard that you want your community to be, right? So again, there's a lot of work to be done. You start with advocating for yourself, right? Start there, and then you can start advocating for other people in your community. But yeah, definitely start with advocating for yourself, advocating in your home.
Nail on the head right there.
Hi, I'm Doris. That just reminds me of my family too. That when I dropped the fear and said that you know, I'm undocumented, and so you know, that I start looking for support with immigration communities, and even here in Staten Island, like I wasn't aware until like something happens that they are immigration support systems.
Yes, Doris, there is a lot of immigration support system. Actually, I'm very close to my good brother. His name is Caesar. He actually ran for borough president. He's actually an immigration lawyer specialist. He actually just got a job with the mayor's office as well. You can contact me on my phone, Doris, and I can definitely make sure that you're a part of that network, La Colmena. They're really, I mean, dope people. Yesenia, my sister Yesenia.
There's also Migration Resource Center, MRC.
Yes, that's where right now I'm having a personal problem. It's not well, it's related to my family member, and well, you probably hear the news with all these subway attacks, and unfortunately my husband is going through a difficult time right now, and I'm so glad that I found this place that that it's it's helping us through these difficult times. And I'm like, without noticing, I'm advocating for myself and my husband as well. So yeah, definitely. If I can get all those resources.
And you share them with the next person. That's exactly how it starts. You advocate for yourself, someone you love, and then you help the next person, and then you help make the first step of changing something. So that's exactly where this all begins.
Yeah, I just like got in a little late with the groups. I was trying to, also, like I'm still trying to get my my head together with everything that just happened. I mean, this is just, it's not even a week, but I'm hanging in there with just keeping myself strong.
Yeah.
I hope your husband is okay.
Yeah, and I'm definitely praying that your husband is okay. Please, Miss Doris, text me your information. I want to definitely make sure that at least my brother Caesar definitely can get in contact with you.
Yeah, he's, well, for now he's recovering, and we just like, there's just so much that has to get done, but I am keeping myself, again, like I said, strong, and in good faith that he'll get social justice.
Sister Doris, thank you for sharing that.
So again, I'm going to just say we have about 8 more minutes. If there's any more questions, I think you had a plethora of excitement, information, resources. I'm going to say, Yulia, please be careful. I see that you're driving. Told everyone, be careful. So I have a question. Isaiah, what is next? Or Ranti, what is next for the young leaders? What are your projects? What are you doing? How can people get involved besides the Facebook that I did drop in the chat, but I'll drop it again.
Yeah, so the next steps really would be just getting more people involved, getting our voices a little more out there than it is now, because we did take our step back. Like I'm starting my farm. A lot of us are finishing school. Some moved away, like Will, he moved to Florida, but he's still on his energy. He's still out there, bringing out positivity to everywhere he goes. So I'm blessed that he was even a part of this while he was here, and I'm blessed that he's keep doing his thing while he's away. But like I'm saying, join the Facebook group. So we can get these conversations actively going again. So we can, one thing that we did before, we asked the community, did they want this march that we were doing? Did they love this idea that we put out? And that's something we continually want to do. Make sure everyone's voice is being heard, not just throwing out our ideas and having you guys come along with us. We want you all to be interactive in the decision making as well. So join up. You can join the Instagram. Follow our Instagram, Young Leaders of Staten Island. You can follow us there.
And I definitely see a new partnership. I think Yvette just put it in the chat, maybe something with emerging leaders and young leaders of Staten Island. And yeah. I know that they're building a second season or maybe a first season. This is the pilot. So maybe next year there could be some real learning advocacy as part of emerging leaders, and then real actual action with young leaders, and really kind of getting everyone on both sides. That would be great.
We're always willing to work with anyone a part of this community. And one thing I want to let you all know, that's outside of the young leaders, I am in a group, Staten Island Cannabis Coalition, and we're trying to advocate for the safe and adult use of cannabis. This is a new profit bubble that's about to burst, that we can all get into, start having businesses, because one thing we really like to push forward, the young leaders and myself, is that we need to be economically free. We need to have that freedom, right? We need to be able to fund our projects that we choose to do. right? It's not everything you do can be free, like putting together a march, that's free. But, doing a burgers and ballots where you have to make some burgers for everybody, make some hot dogs, make sure everyone gets fed, that costs money to do. So, you want to be financially free to support those endeavors that you go on. And with the Staten Island Cannabis Coalition, we are trying to make sure that Staten Island becomes a hub for information. Anyone who needs help getting licensed, we want to be able to help you. If you had any nonviolent charges against you, we want to be able to get that wiped off your record, because that was something that was guaranteed to us when it became legal, right? When cannabis became legal, they said that we are expunging that off your record. So we want to make sure that policies are being followed, that the rules and regulations get out to you. You know it, you know about it. You can get ahead of the curve before the licensings come out and everyone else takes it away from us, right? We want to make sure that all that money comes right back to Staten Island. Our island flourishes and thrives. So if you want to be a part of that, get any more information on the cannabis part of things, obviously you have to be an adult to be doing that. But you can email me. I can get you involved with that also. We're trying to put together a know your rights conversation going forward. So, get to me. I'll get that information to you all. And I hope we all can prosper and, move forward into a better future.
Thank you. Isaiah, Ranti, I thought you were waving at me, and I was like, hi.
No, I was waving but I can, somebody has their hand up, Mrs.
Yes.
Yulia.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you, Yulia.
How are you doing? I thank you for having us. It's really great. Unfortunately, because it's an evening event, we couldn't get a lot of young people from the program that I work with. We are on Staten Island, right on Bay Street, a workforce development program for young people. And right now we have about 60 young people enrolled in our programs. They're doing amazing work. We're getting together. Just a couple weeks ago, we got together and organized cleanup event. Not that you can see it today, but at the time it made a big dent. So we worked with Parks and Recreation, and our young people did amazing work right here on Bay and Victory. But I was wondering if maybe you guys might be interested in coming to say hi to our youth during the day. We have a community day on 29th of April. And if you have a moment, 5 minutes to pop in and share some lunch with us and say hi and possibly talk about the events that you can get involved in here in Staten Island, that would be amazing. So if I'm going to put my information in the chat, so please come, please talk to our young people. Unfortunately, again, because it's an evening event and it's raining today, quite a few people were not able to join, but I think it would be amazing to have you guys come over in person, because that's how we build, right? That energy, that vibes. It's how we build community in person.
Thank you. Yes, please put your information in the chat. I would love to come and support you. Also, I think you should be a part of Mock J's partners meetings. Specifically, I have partner meetings with all city agencies every third Tuesday of the month from 2 to 3. It would be important because then you can see what other resources we have from the city standpoint, as well as what our local agencies doing to programs. So that would be great for you to join.
That was amazing. And one of the other things that's difficult, that we find difficult, is connecting with young people because of the pandemic and how it was like everybody is just everywhere, and it's very hard to bring people together and kind of relearn to come together, right? And for people to access the resources and the program. So thank you. Please kindly invite me. I'd be happy to jump on any and all meetings youth related.
Right. Thank you. Please put your information in the chat. As I said before, what the next steps are, Isaiah told you, but the young leaders are forming. There's going to be 3 arms of the young leaders. One is going to be focused on advocacy. specifically, some of the things that the young leaders were doing was bringing ballots to schools and like educating people about ballots, and all that, like the different people who are running for different positions. That's going to continue. They're still going to be continuing their education front as well. And then definitely what Zay said about food justice and food security. And then the other piece is a travel component. I'm working right now with one of just so you guys know, my campaign was ran by young people. My campaign manager was 24. My everybody else from my education people were like 19, 20. So I just want to let you know, my campaign was ran by people who never ran a campaign before. And I and I wanted it like that because they learned how to run, and now when they want to run, they have that knowledge, and that's what this is also about. So everybody on my campaign, besides 2 people, were under the age of 30. So I just want to also let you guys know that if you want to be the change you want to see, it starts with you. People are like, Ranti, why are you bringing that young? They don't know, but now they do. So if we got to run again, so that's just so you know. The other piece is, from the city standpoint, we have started this youth leadership council where we're bringing 75 young people. We have 60, so we're looking for 15 more across the city that will create policy. They will actually create policy and bring the policy in front of the city council to be approved as youth policy. That will be actually a part of the charter. So it will be actual laws. That's what we're working right now. If anybody wants to join me, I gave you my email, I gave you my contact me. I'll be able to give you guys links into different stuff. If you need help with the Safe in the City grant, please contact me. It's about empowering and paying it forward. And yeah, so what I see is working with the young leaders for the next 2 years, working in the Office of Neighborhood Safety in the next 2 years. And then after those 2 years are over, having a youth power, youth ran campaign for I won't tell you what it is, but I'll
Guys, we're getting some inside information here. I do want to be mindful.
Stop recording.
I do want to be mindful of time though, because it is 6:33.
Okay.
I do want to be mindful of time because it is 6:33, and this was such a rich and amazing conversation. I know that I was part of it, but I feel like I learned so much myself. So if there are any last questions, you can email either Ranti, Isaiah, myself, Yvette. In the chat, there was a million resources. I do know that Yvette is going to email them all out to everyone. If you want to contact us, I think she's going to get everyone involved. We want to thank you for coming. There is one more event on April 28th that you can come to. I'm hoping I can be able to make it. I have been out of the country for the last 2 events that happened. So I'm looking forward to the next one. And I think this is an amazing conversation. Thank you, Ranti and Isaiah, for joining us. Really, thank you, Ranti, for joining us. I know that it was hard to get here, but thank you. And I hope you had an amazing conversation, and you'll join us again. There's a thing in the chat. You can join next year for emerging leaders, join young leaders of Staten Island, join their Facebook chat. Don't text Ranti just because you want to say hi, but I'm sure he'll say hello back.
No, that's fine. I gave them my work phone, so if it works, I can pick up. Personal, I'm getting older now, so I'm learning how to keep space.
There's self-care. There's self-care too.
Self-care, yes. You don't want to go bored like me at a young age.
Woo! No. Okay.
You're looking good, sister. You're looking good.
Hey, thank you. Okay.
Peace and love to everyone. Yvette, you are a beautiful sister. Thank you so much for holding us down, for having this space so young people can hear us. Young people, if you're on this call, I just love you guys, and I hope that you are inspired by your own self. You guys are tremendous. You guys are the authors of your own journey. So please show up and show out. Let people know you're fearless, and even if you're afraid, think about someone who you love and then be unafraid, because we need you. Your voice is valued. You are valued here, and it won't change until you start your movement, guys. So we love you.
And I just want to say thank you to Linda, Ranti, and Isaiah for dealing with me and my many emails and harassments. I apologize.
No harassment.
But look how worth it was. You guys are great for your patience and your support today. I think this was the best session yet. You guys are awesome, so informative, so great. And I want you to keep the emerging leaders in mind. Please send us any dates or any programs or any initiatives that you guys are planning, any flyers, anything, we will continue to inform students and youth in however way we can get involved. Just keep us in mind. We want to build this partnership and keep the ball rolling for sure. And I look forward to it. And you guys are amazing and awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yvette.
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Have a good night, everyone.
Have a
You can
great
stop
night.
recording, Yvette.
Yes.